I declare war. Today I came across a couple of articles about the killing of Akai Gurley. This brother was walking down a staircase in his Brooklyn project apartment building. The staircase was dimly lit. There were two police officers at the bottom of the staircase. One of those officers, Peter Liang, an Asian man, fired a shot into that stairwell. The shot hit the wall and ricocheted and hit Akai Gurley in the chest, killing him. Akai Gurley was unarmed. He didn't pose any kind of threat. He was not violating the law. He was simply walking down the staircase in his apartment building, and his life was snuffed out like it was nothing. The prosecutors brought a case against this officer. This officer was tried and he was convicted of second-degree manslaughter. And he presently faces up to 15 years in jail. Now, instead of the prosecutors demanding that this cop serve some time in jail, this prosecutor, the prosecutor in Brooklyn by the name of Kenneth Thompson, an African American, a black person. I'm not sure if he's African American. There are many immigrants in that community, but I assume that he's African American. He's black. This prosecutor recommended that this officer not be sentenced to jail time. He recommended instead that this officer merely have to serve 500 hours of community service and a 5-year probation. He wrote this letter to the court. And from what I understand and reading some articles, apparently he was under great pressure from the Asian community and from the police union not to request a harsh sentence for this officer. This is very troubling to say the least. What kind of message does this send to the police? What does it say to society? Basically, it says this, that these police have a green light to kill black people. That it's okay to kill a black person. That's essentially what this prosecutor is saying. By saying that no jail sentence should be imposed after taking this young brother's life, after just taking his brother's life, basically giving these people a green light to kill black people. This message from this action basically says, well, black lives don't mean anything. And the thing that makes this all even worse is that this prosecutor is black. If black people don't value black lives, then how can we possibly expect anybody else to? This prosecutor, instead of having the courage to stand up, this prosecutor brought a case against this officer. His attorneys tried a case against this officer and obtained a judgment, a conviction against this officer. But yet they don't have the courage to follow through and demand that this officer serve some jail time. That's cowardice to me. That's an act of treason. This prosecutor is nothing but a damn traitor. He's more afraid of the Asian groups that are pressuring him, and he's more afraid of the police union than he's afraid of black people. Because he realizes that these other groups are mobilized and they're politically organized, and that he realizes that there will be consequences if he doesn't do their bidding. Whereas with the black community, you got all these Negroes that don't want to vote, rather just talk a good game. But they're not going to turn out and vote. So he feels that he can treat the black community any kind of way. We have to prove this prosecutor wrong. The people in New York have to prove him wrong. The brothers and sisters in Brooklyn need to vote him out of office. They need to protest every day. See, there have to be consequences for these acts of treason, for these acts of betrayal. Otherwise, we'll continue to have these token Negroes continue to do the bidding of non-black people at the expense of black people. This has got to stop. We have to hold Kenneth Thompson accountable. I was reading another article today about a story here in Baltimore about a Ravens football player, a former Ravens football player who had been convicted of animal cruelty for killing a dog. The football player faces like 9 months. I think he was actually sentenced to 9 months for that crime. And here you have in New York this police officer who killed a black man. And you had his prosecutor who doesn't even want to give that killer any jail time. So when you look at these two cases, you see that a dog's life has more value than a black man's life. And that's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace that we live in such a society. It's an absolute disgrace that a black man would have the audacity to make such a ridiculous recommendation.